the Sunday games, the night games over and the Monday's gone.
Okay, so Sunday, Monday games, you have what you essentially need for any type of daily fantasy in any format on any website. You need at least 4 teams, and you'll see that the fantasy will end when there's no longer 4 teams available to play. That goes for baseball, football, whatever. So Sunday night means you get, in the regular season, you'll see 1 Sunday night game, so you get those 2 teams, and then 1 Monday night game, you get those 2 teams.
Right.
Now, what you're saying is when you select out of those 4 teams, you're minimizing your draft pool, the players you have to choose from. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. The times that I've been successful on DraftKings and FanDuel is when I use these smaller windows. I mentioned to you that I do that for baseball and hockey quite a bit. I don't like the 13-game afternoon. The pool to choose from is too huge. You can choose from the smaller brackets on a 10 o'clock baseball round. It's just a lot easier to pick that guy that goes off. So, yeah, I agree completely. And I think if you can, kind of temper your enthusiasm as a daily fantasy player and leave it alone during the day on Sunday or just do the 4 o'clock games.
Yeah.
The smaller bracket's just better for you.
I think if you have patience, you can build up slowly. I think you can win. When we say win, you're not winning at all. You're just winning money, obviously.
Sure.
You win enough to get up to the point to where you then can say, okay, like right now I have a few $1,000s in the account again.
You do what I do. You turn around and you blow it.
What's that?
So you do what I do when you get up to that number. You turn around and you blow it. You take all that money.
I did when I was up last year. I won almost. I think my all totaled in 2 years of being on FanDuel is almost $12,000.
That's an excellent term. Now,
and I only played football, so obviously that was all done on. And I only played 5 games last year, so this. So
you were really cherry picking when you played.
Yeah. Now I understand. I had 5 games on my account. So that $12,000 is won in 6 regular season games.
Okay.
But understand, I had lots of practice on a buddy of mine. We had a joint account, and he just started it because he's the one who showed me about it. And he was like, "Oh, just do it, and we'll split it if you win." Blah blah blah. And so I had a year and a half's worth of practice on that account.
Okay, great.
So it was like I didn't just jump in. Don't think I just started winning. Where I got lucky. It was
No, I know that's why you're here. You're here because you've got a track record. So I've heard plenty about it, and I think the biggest point you bring up is the smaller draft pool and picking games on the Sunday and Monday night lineups. That's the first logical step, coupled with selecting your players from potentially high scoring games. The beauty of daily fantasy is you have the ability to make a different team every week. You're not stuck with the same bullshit that you can get caught with in a friend league or a work league or whatever the case might be. So you put your lineup together. Are you trying to fade players? Are you trying to have somebody that other people don't have, or are you kind of just ignoring that and picking the best lineup you can put together?
I am to a degree on the Sunday, but when we lessen the choices, when we have the 2 or 3 game choice, games that we're doing, I don't like to have the same guy. But there's a twist on that. If it's Des Bryant and they're playing, the Ravens, you're not going to have too many studs to choose from wide receiver-wise. That would be a sure thing. Let's assume their quarterback situation in the Cowboys is. Okay,
so you're saying if that happens to be one of the 2 games on the Sunday, Monday night, I see.
There's times when everyone, but then there's that guy where you can't worry about starting. Let's say again, if we're using the Cowboys again, Cole Beasley. Because you're not in love with his name, and he's not someone you'd ever draft in your with your group of friends. You can't be afraid to start him on a Sunday when, he had the most targets just this last week.
Sure. So, now, targets, and I hate to keep losing your train of thought here, but targets are something that I look at quite a bit with receivers to make sure, are they part of the offense?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. If they're not getting looks, it doesn't, there's only a few guys that can take it to the house in the NFL, with one pass. So, yeah, don't waste your time if they're not getting. Like I said, it all depends on what team you're talking about and what game. But if they don't catch 8 balls a game, I don't really want to start them.
Sure.
That means
no, you got to have the opportunity to get in the end zone, and that's it right there. Defenses on daily fantasy. Is it just an afterthought?
No, because again, that's a winner and loser. You saw Minnesota had 21 points on FanDuel the way they score it, and then the next closest I think was like 14 or 15, and then everybody else had single digits. You're not going to win if you don't do that. Nothing is an afterthought. Maybe the kicker, because there are certain weeks that the kicker stays within a few points.
Sure, you could get the same value from Gostkowski to whomever.
But yeah, as a rule, what I try to do is I'm not so enamored with the cost. That's another thing, that you can't be so enamored with how much something is, and you really got to go through pretty much every single dollar value player and see what his worth is and what his matchup is, what the spread is. Take all those variables, who's healthy, if he's a running back, is his left guard hurt, those things, and then that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I'll get out a pad of paper and write it down and get an idea of who I'm targeting and how I want it to work, and then how I can fit it with the dollar values. I know the guys I want each time, but you can never do that because you can't afford them, and so it just kind of comes together from that.
How much time a week would you say you spend on these TPS reports?
I spend way too much time on the TPS report.
Okay.
Like anything, I mean, I think you find success in when you put effort into something. I mean, maybe I'm trying to change the world, but I've gotten close so many times that it's more realistic than not to think that I could win a big payout.
Sure.
So it's fun to, how this adds such another dimension to watching your Sunday football, that if I'm now ahead of the game by a few $1,000s, then who cares what I do with that money? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. So, yeah, it's not even about that. It's to me, it's about the excitement of just competing at something.
It's awesome. I want to win. I want to take first place, which I've taken my best yesterday Sunday on the big one was 217th place out of like 90,000, I think it was.
Yeah, that's a pretty high percentage. You're in the top 0.5%.
I've done 42nd place out of 60-something thousand. I've done 52nd or 53rd, something like that, out of like 70,000.
On an average, what are you spending per contest? What's your entry that you're looking at? Are you looking at the $5, $1, $3 entries, or are you going right at the $25?
Well, right now I might not even do the $25 one this week. I think I might put all my energy and spend a couple $100 in the the $5 Sunday Monday, where the payout says $40,000, but it's not guaranteed. So last week that payout became almost $7,000, just under $7,000, like $6,000 or something.
So in the non-guaranteed leagues, if it doesn't fill up, then it's based on the total.
No, it's just the guarantee is it's not. There's certain that you're guaranteed to win, and then I guess if it all depends. FanDuel just started to not fill up, so that guarantee you didn't need it. I just noticed this past week that for the first time ever, they didn't close out. Like you could have posted deals till Sunday.
I hadn't looked that closely. I only did a couple FanDuel entries last week, and they were the Sunday Mondays, just to help break it down and narrow down your player pool. And I did okay. I actually broke even on FanDuel when I was up 160 on DraftKings. So look, there's money to be made, but there's money to be lost. So I want to, the caveat, the caution to the listener out there is that you're not going to walk in and enter $3 and win $3 million tomorrow. It's if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Oh, and don't fall for the bait and switch of the how they're going to give you $100 today to play. They give you that money over the course of the year that you deposited and stuff. So
they do, and I did that, but I will suggest that if you're going to do it and you're serious about doing it, you may as well max out your potential investment. If they're going to give you $100 back, do it. However,
no, I agree. Do it. It's just not. You're not going to go on tomorrow and get $300 to play. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
You do have to be careful too, because they give it back to you in such small increments that what ends up happening, if you don't get it all back in enough time, you won't get it all back.
Right.
And I think they give you back an X percentage based on how much you play each day. So if you don't get back into it more, you tend to not get that money back the way you want it. So it is really deceptive, the way it works. But unfortunately, or fortunately enough, it's not deceptive.
Like anything in life, right? No one's given away anything.
But I've heard people over the last couple of years say that the entities that run these things cheat. They edge you out. They have they make dummy lineups that automatically win and take all your money. I'm a firm believer that is absolutely not happening.
I don't think so.
They make enough
because it's in real time, and you know who you started, so there's no way they can cheat you. Like, this is not like a lottery where there's arbitrary numbers that a machine can generate.
Right.
Right. So now, obviously, they can get an edge by seeing who's playing, and especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Percentages.
Yeah, you're just copying your neighbors. They probably can go and be like, oh, this guy, Big Rufus 98 has won $500,000 this year. We should just copy him every week. And let me tell you, there are people winning that insane amount of money. That's what people need to realize who they're going against. I remember watching an in-depth special on ESPN, I believe it was, about the FanDuel and DraftKings, and there was a guy who was an ex-Bear Stearns analyst.
Yes, I've seen a lot of these guys do this.
He was making like $800,000 a year. He quit his job. He's now making $2.5 million a year doing daily fantasy.
Yeah, and here I am sitting in an office podcasting. The hell's wrong with me?
He's got $8 or $10 grand in play on Sunday. He's got 20, 30, 40 grand in play on daily baseballs, and because I guess certain baseball and other games that happen more with more players. I guess it's a lot easier to be successful when you do the computer models that these guys create.
It can be. I haven't, I don't know. I haven't won enough to say any of it's easy. I will say, without divulging too much, I've been playing for the last 3 years on the same investment. So I invested my initial monies. I'm not going to say I never put more money back in it, because I certainly did, but I won a couple times large enough to cover my overall investment, and that money's just stayed there, and I've played with it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've lost a lot of it back, and then I've won it all back after that. But all in all, I'm definitely up in fantasy sports, but it's been a grind, and if my tolerance was a little bit higher when I got into this, that I was willing to lose a higher number than I am right now. Now I prefer to coast and enjoy it. But the important thing to note is just don't start dumping your paycheck into this thinking something good's going to happen if you can just blindly guess and think you're going to hit the $1 million maker. It's not happening. It's just not happening.
It's not. There are times when I'm dumbfounded that I say to myself, I'm yelling at my computer screen, I'm yelling at my big screen, that was not supposed to happen. and it will happen every time. And again, that's when we get back to, don't be worried about starting someone that you're not in love with. If it fits, and a lot of times what I like to, depending on the matchup, I like to maximize. I don't like to leave money in the bank, because that means you could have gotten somebody else, and that means someone can beat you with just a tweak to your lineup. Whereas when you
but there's two sides to that.
When you spend it wisely, you make sure that you couldn't have gotten any. And I mean, it all depends on how they structure it. If the guys are so close, then it makes it difficult. But a lot of times on FanDuel, each bracket is pretty well spaced out to where you understand, like, you're never going to be able to start 3-tier wide receivers and win, because your team is going to be so depleted that unless you get lucky and get 2 sleeper running backs that cost you $5,000 each, you're not winning. So you
you can find
every bracket, and one thing I like a lot of times. What's that?
I try to avoid maximizing my lineup. Like, they start you with 50,000. I try to avoid nitpicking and making sure I have nothing left, because I really just want to focus on the players I want. just because a guy's valued at X dollar and he's the highest value there. For example, last week Julio Jones